Hello and welcome to our game. Delighted to be back another Tuesday afternoon in association with our great sponsors, Lotto Land, and delighted to have one of the greats alongside me for today, Tommy Guilfoyle. How are you getting on?
Great, Mike. Yeah, great to be here again. I suppose a bit unusual for me because usually when I was on this, it would be a case of who'd get the first insult into either Stapleton or me. So I can relax today.
We won't let you relax too much, Tommy. Do you feel a bit more do you feel a bit safer now, kind of knowing that there's not like a tip kind of a snake just waiting to pounce on you at any stage?
That would be my fear, all right, because that would be Stapleton, all right. Like he's gone to ground since Clare won the All Ireland. I'm not sure, is he okay? Is he?
I think we did one show. We've done one show with him since Clare won the All Ireland, and that says enough about the character of the man. You know?
Yeah, well, look I mean, you would expect nothing more from him.
Good man. Tommy, you're in good form again after last weekend. There was probably just first things first, obviously, touch on Shane O'Donnell. I know he met the T-shirt there recently. There was no sign of any surgery, but he's obviously going for surgery. Is he going for surgery? He hasn't had it yet, has he?
Well, there's varying reports. I've heard that he's had the surgery maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. So who knows? And again, look, it's the nature of inter-county hurling, sworn to secrecy. So we don't know. Yeah, I saw him. I think he was at it with the GPA, met the government or something. He didn't look like he had any sling or anything on.
No.
So I suppose we all in Clare, were devastated when he was ruled out, because to me, he epitomises everything that's good about Clare over the last couple of years. And I suppose when we were going through that bad patch, those performances against Galway and Wexford, we always probably had the consolation that, when the rest of the players come back, and especially Shane O'Donnell, when he came back, that would be the boost. But then the word broke last week. And look I suppose, let's put it into context. I suppose it's a hurler getting injured. It's nothing new, but I suppose, he has been Clare's talisman over the last 3 or 4 years. But I suppose in the context, look at, that same week, Pat Ryan's brother tragically passed away. I suppose you put things in perspective.
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned, Tommy, about the kind of the omerta almost around information in Clare. Is it a sort of case where maybe after doing a game in Ennis and maybe you've said something or been a bit looser than you should have been, that you're kind of thinking, geez, will I get out behind the back of the stand here without getting a bullet in the back of the head?
Yeah, well, I actually work with Ken Ralph, one of the selectors, so I don't ask or he doesn't tell. And if he says anything to me, I tread cautiously. Because look they have their job to do, and I suppose we in the local media, I suppose, that's what makes it. All the chat, the talk, leading after the Wexford game, there was doom and gloom, and then came the Shane O'Donnell announcement, and then we put in the performance against Limerick, and everyone is happy again. So it's the ups and downs of the GA.
With Ken Ralph, it's kind of the same. I think when you've been a player and stuff like that, you kind of know what to ask and what not to ask. A lot of time, players don't really want to, the last thing they want to talk about is the game, and it's kind of, I think they enjoy conversation that's just about anything else bar the game. Do you know what I mean? And I think that there's a respect thing when you don't say, well, how are you getting on? Who's injured? Who's not injured? When you just talk about something else completely that has no relevance to hurling.
Yeah, no, and again, that's out of respect, because they have a job to do, a tough job, when you think about the time and effort that they put in. And, I think there'll always be speculation, even right up to the throw in. I think we had the instance last week where Garrod Sheedy from Ogunlow was playing and he wasn't even tugged out. It was Jack O'Neill from Clooney Quinn. So
hey, just on that, Tommy.
Forget about the programs.
No player has ever played as well without tugging out as Garrod Sheedy did last weekend.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's what they say. Your stock goes up when you don't put on your tugs, and that certainly was the case.
Yeah. Just on Jack O'Neill for a young fella. Kind of a brazen kind of a player, like he's not afraid to take on a shot, and to impress against what many would consider is, the best team in the land, or one of the best teams in the land. It's not like impressing in a Munster League game. You're thrown right into the Lions' den. That's a really good sign for him, I'd say.
Yeah, and again, I think from looking in on the outside, I mean, he started against Kilkenny at wing back, the first league game, and acquitted himself very well. I think he was on. I'm not sure who he was on, but and again, at wing back, he's usually midfield upwards rather than. That was the first time I would have saw him playing in the backs. But he was one of these guys probably over the last 2 or 3 years coming through the Clare, development system that you would have earmarked, but has been a potential. Whether it would have come this soon or not, but to me, the most striking thing about Jack O'Neill is the size, the physical size that he has put on. He would have been seen as a kind of a light. I don't want to be disrespectful, a scrawny player, but he's really, really strengthened up to be, a powerful man. And the Wednesday night before that game, played centre field and centre forward for the UL freshers, and I think got a goal and 2 or 3 points. So, he has been knocking around. I'd say he's one of those players that they may be thinking long term, maybe not, giving him a small bit of exposure rather than, putting him out every day. But, he'd be hard to keep out of the reckoning after last week's performance. As you said, very, very cool, very calm. A big, abrasive, physical guy, as you said, and an eye for scores. Got 3 points in play, so a good day's work.
That performance was a bit of a tonic, Tommy, wasn't it? Like, it was, sometimes the performance is kind of needed maybe just to kickstart the season. You mightn't necessarily stay in Division 1A, but against, as I said, your neighbours and biggest rivals, it was an important performance and an important win.
It was, yeah. And again, look, I think we would have started off against Kilkenny the first day with, I think there was 2 or 3 of the All-Ireland winning teams starting. Lost David McInerney early. But I think we took a lot out of that game. A lot of the younger players got a lot of exposure. But then the form against Galway and Wexford was puzzling in the sense that, it was very hard to take anything positive from those games. We were, lifeless. We lacked energy. We're really under the caution. I would say there was probably a small bit of concern around the county about, where we were at. But I suppose, who better to bring the best out of us than our near neighbours and much loved Limerick. And, I still don't think that, Clare taking it each game as it comes. I think, if we had lost against Limerick, I think the last 2 games would have been irrelevant. Now we go into next Sunday, repeated the All-Ireland from last year, and it just adds to I suppose the nature of this new revised league is that you don't have any handy games, and I mean that with the greatest respect to, you might have 3 hard games and 3 games where you could experiment. You didn't have that option this year. And I suppose, the league probably should be treated better, but I think it's everyone now at this stage. It's a building block to championship. The nature of the Munster Championship, you need to build and peak to that rather than. I'd rather be building and going towards the Munster Championship than being flying it. At this time of the year. So it is a conundrum for the management how they manage this. Look, no one likes to lose, and don't tell me any team Lohan has ever been over. Never wanted to win, but I suppose the circumstances behind it, and also I suppose look at, I suppose us supporters and in the media. We couldn't expect the team to pick up where they left off after last year's All-Ireland. That was a long building block to that All-Ireland winning performance. And, players, have been through a lot during the winters. There's been holidays. There've been this, that, and the other. You've had the guys recuperating, recovering after injuries, rehabbing. So it was a lot to be asking. But I think both the management and the team needed that performance. I would have been happy, had we not won and put in that performance, because I think our form would have been seen to be going up. But to get the win going in Limerick, I think was an added bonus. And it, as I said, it really sets up next Sunday in Ennis.
My immediate thought near the end of the game, Tommy, was, and I meant to actually text you on Sunday, is fecal rugby country.
We have young lads playing rugby with Scariff, but very rarely seeing a rugby ball in Fecal except it's on the television.
Just Hogan was getting a fair scrum going back on Burns there.
Well, he showed great promise as a rugby player. He played with Innes and was looking towards Munster development squads as a winger. He played probably up to maybe 15 or 16. He played with Scariff, and then Innes, obviously a bigger club, went on, and then he was picked up by he was on the radar of Munster. So you're saying that tongue in cheek. He was a rugby player. I just thought that it was handbags last week.
Yeah, what did you think of that, Tommy? To be honest with you, like, I thought from Burns' point of view, I'd be disappointed if he didn't react somewhat. Now, Kiely reckoned after that the red card was for the initial tackle.
Yeah, I do as well. I
didn't personally see a red in that. It was mistimed, but I didn't see malice or kind of menace in it. But what happened after was mad. I haven't seen that in a while, like that type of thing. And Hogan was in on top of him. He had the jersey like that, and then there were 3 or 4 other lads mauling. They were going to get him back over the line there and turn him over.
Yeah, he was kind of like a terrier attacking a Rottweiler. Do you know that sort of way? There was no going back. And I think, look, maybe that was what was lacking. I mean, I think against Wexford there was no physicality, there was no intensity, and I think that there, I think Dermot Burns was sent off for the initial foul, and I based that on the fact that the same referee, Thomas Walsh, refereed the Fitzgibbon semi-final 2 weeks ago. 2 UCC players who went in on the player either going down on the ball or coming up with the ball with the shoulder or somewhere around there, straight reds. The minute I saw Dermot Burns doing it with the referee, and I'm not criticising the referee, I said he's gone. Now, I don't think he couldn't have gone on his own for the row. Let's be honest, he just could not be, because I think, as you said, there was 4 or 5 Clare lads. We're trying to drive him out over the advertising signs there on the side of it. And of course he'd react. And, being a Patrick Swellman, like, you'd expect nothing more. But no, and again, he's not that sort of a player. And again, that's not here nor there. But I don't think there was any, he just mistimed it. It was a small bit high. But then I suppose you had the argument that Kelly should have gone off. And look, it's very hard to argue against it. Where there's a strike, let it be, slight or heavy to the head, which draws blood, can only result in one thing. And I think, in fairness, credit to Kelly, I think he acknowledged that, knew he probably got away light. But, I had a Clare guy here at work trying to explain it to a group of hardcore Limerick supporters, where his understanding, in slow motion was that Adam English, unfortunately, ran into Tony Kelly's hurley. So, there's always 2 sides to the story.
Right, well, that's one side, but it's a very fictional side. Just looking at the game at the weekend, Tommy, I think Cork would like to kick on, I'd imagine, and get to a league final if at all possible, having gotten a good result against the Cats last Saturday night, and an important result, I think, given the emotion around the game. I think it was important for them to win. And particularly, like, I honestly don't know how Pat Ryan did his job on Saturdays. It was phenomenal. It's such an unbelievable sign of a fella, because I can't imagine how difficult it was. But you want to come in there?
Yeah, no, Pat usually, he handles himself well in interviews. I think, I was surprised that he was on the sideline, but I suppose life goes on, and it wasn't going to change anything. But I think probably Pat would have done it out of respect for his brother, and his brother would have wanted it, being a former Cork player. Yeah, there was a lot of emotion. I think some of the comments after, I think these Cork players are really playing and hurling for Pat. I think so. That affection is 2 ways, and there was no better way to show it to him than going out and put in a performance. Performance that puts them in a good position. I just wonder, Cork going all out for the league? even though they've tried a good lot of players, they seem to, have that maybe 10 or 11. And going back to what I said, about the league leading into the championship, to me, Cork have been one of the form teams. Now, can they keep that form up, and keep adding to, the players to come back in and then hit the ground running against, in that Munster Championship? And we're playing them on the first round in Ennis again on the 20th of April. So it is, well, it's not a concern. It's just an observation that, following on from being in the All-Ireland final, that you would imagine, would the league be their number one priority? Somewhere like the likes of Tip were trying to regain lost ground, Waterford and those, you would say that they would need to put in good performances and maybe be successful in the league. But we'll just have to wait and see how it pans out with Cork. Cork have a big panel. They have a lot of good players, and I suppose, they change them around a good bit. So there's none of them going to be overtaxed at this time of the year. But, it is a long year yet and a long way ahead.
Pow pulls no punches here. He says Cork are the most overrated team of the last 10 years. What do you make of that, Tommy? I half understand where he's coming from, because I've kind of gone all in on them a couple of times and have maybe let me down. And I kind of think just to have the potential, but that potential is still there. I do think it's getting closer and closer. Yeah. That's probably maybe a bit tongue in cheek as well, what he's saying there. But it looks like the potential is definitely there, and they're coming closer to fulfilling their potential than they have in the past, I would say.
Yeah, and they've had the underage success to back it up. It's about moulding in those new players. But the thing for me was last year, I think, maybe after round one, their hand was forced into making changes. I think it was 6 for the Clare match the following week, and the two Downies emerged, different players emerged, and I think, was it by design or was it by chance? The Cork management can only know that. So I think, they have their 10, 11, 12 players. It's about getting the right fit for the other 3. Like, to me, if you had to select the 20 of the most skillful players in the country, a lot of the Cork lads would feature. Have they got that physicality, that intensity, required, to get you over the line? That has been what has been questioned, and I do agree with you. I think they're getting very close.
They're picking more of those types of players now, though, aren't they? I think Rob Downey's a lot more abrasive even than he was. There's a bit of boldness to Owen Downey. Even like Ethan Toomey out in the middle of the field is a real kind of workhorse. I think they are picking. Like, you can't, as I said before, like Cyril, I don't know what Cyril says, he has a way of saying it, but you can't pick all silk, like. You have to mix it with, there has to be substance to it as well. And they're kind of leaning in that direction. Even your man Tommy O'Connell is a bit more there's a bit more abrasiveness to him. Joyce, I would say, there's a bit of abrasiveness to him as well. They're not just the silk anymore, shall we say.
Yeah, and I really like Mickey Mullins at wing back there. Yeah. There's a bit of cut in him. He won't, he's a good hurler, but he can mix it as well. So that's what they're looking for, to get the right mix. Look at, you could never argue that Cork hadn't hurlers. They always have them, but it's about probably, the game has changed. They've changed with it, and now they're evolving. Look at, I don't think, a Munster final win, okay, but I think, the famine is in Cork, when you don't win the All-Ireland. And I think, I don't think it's putting pressure on the players. I think, the players, look at, that shouldn't be the motivating factor behind Cork. Cork, are always up there as contender. It's about getting the right blend and balance within that team, because, on any given day, look what happened last year. We beat Cork twice, Limerick beat us twice, and Cork beat Limerick twice. And we ended up at the end of the pile, up on top of it. So, there's very little between the teams. Very little between the teams. You talk about that Munster Championship. Everyone is saying the 3 being, Clare, Cork, and Limerick as. But I mean, it's all to play for there. You have a resurgent Tipperary. You have a hurt Waterford coming through. No game will be handy in that Munster Championship, and it's great to look forward to that, because no new rules involved. Okay, I think Conor Donovan, and the hand pass rule, I think, got shot down. So I think that was mainly the only talking point about players, the rules and all that. we hear all the football about the FRC and the changing of the rules and all that. But in hurling, right, the game hasn't changed. It has speeded up. It has evolved. And I think you've mostly, maybe 10, 12 teams that on any given day could beat each other.
Yeah.
Sorry, I meant to say Offaly are coming as well. Sorry.
Come on, Tommy. We'll get into them boys in a minute. I love the way sport is all about opinions, and we often get conflicting opinions, and we have them just here. Porter says, beating KK in semi-final and win All-Ireland, this Clare team have answered their critics, will be harder to beat with or without O'Donnell. I would agree with that. But then Canon says, just an observation, that Clare got lucky that Cork beat Limerick for them last year. Because there's no way Clare would have bet Limerick in a final. And Catnap comes in again and just says, and Clare only scraped past Cork after 100 minutes and an undetected jersey grab. Now, the jersey grab, I really do think that the criticism of Johnny Murphy after that game was like, you're bound to miss something within all the things that were going on. I thought he refereed that game like he's never refereed a game before in his life. And it was, he played a seamless part as, and we didn't notice him in one of the greatest games, one of the greatest finals we've played. And just on O'Donnell and Clare being hard to beat, it's a big loss, Tommy. There's no doubt about it. But will it galvanise Clare somewhat? They're All-Ireland champions and they have a few points to prove. Very few people rate them as the best team in the country. Very few people are saying that Clare were the best team in the country last year, despite them winning the All-Ireland. They're missing the hurler of the year now. This, 2 words written all over this for me: siege mentality. And ye love a good siege mentality.
Oh, we do, yeah. Any cause, and I'm sure. Look at, I mean, we were hunting for the last couple of years. Now we're the hunters, and that's reality. I mean, and again, and I think at the medal presentation, I think Lucknan fairly put it up to the players and management that were there on the night about they haven't won a Munster championship. And that's something that I don't think any of the players have a Munster championship medal. So, but when you think of the amount of hurling, you have to do to win a Munster championship and then go on and, into the All-Ireland series, it's a big ask. And along the way, you need to get the breaks. You need the things open up from, and when you get your chance, you need to take it because, that's just the nature of it. And when we go, as I said, I mean, at the moment, right, a lot of people are basing the 3 to come out of Munster are based on last year. Well, I said last year is last year. It's all to play for again this year, and I'm sure it's the same in Leinster.
Yeah, some great comments coming in here. Pau just says, are people sleeping on Waterford to get out of Munster this year? Beating a pint by Clare, beat Cork, and threw it away against Tip. Ran out of steam against Limerick. To me, Tommy, this is nearly a last dance job for Waterford. I wouldn't be 100% sure if we're going to see their current squad all in tow next year. There's a lot of injuries. They have Prunty back. They've Stephen Bennett back. They've Desi Hutchinson back. They've Dara Lyons back. Austin will be back towards the end of March. Who else are we missing there? We've the vast majority there. Barron is fit, obviously. DeBorka will be back towards the end of March as well. I think this is like one big last stand to try and eventually get out of this round robin that's kind of haunted them really since it came in 2018.
And Clare have to go down to Waterford, and that will be that won't be easy, because Clare, we're playing Cork in the first round in Innis. The key thing is here, you lose your first game or you drop points the first game, you're under pressure straight away. And, I wouldn't like to be going to Waterford under pressure because they're the type of team that, if they turn it on a day, I think they've probably been they've underachieved over the last couple of years for different reasons. I don't know, the style of play, players missing, players not pulling, not sure to what extent the belly gunner input or not was in that. But to me, as I said, currently I could not put 50 euros on the 3 teams that will come out of Munster because I base it on the fact that each game, is a massive game on its own. There's no gimmies, and as the season, you go through that, you'll have ups and downs, and at the end of the day, there's 3 from 5, and it's going to be tough on the 2 teams, and that has been Waterford and Tip, and I'm sure they'll want to write that in 2025.
I know you're a big Premier fan. Catnap just says Tip getting very uppity after a few good outings against teams that were pulling up and experimenting. What have you made of Tip so far, Tommy? Like I would have been quite doom and gloom about them at the start of the year, and I would have thought there's a lot of lads been thrown in really at the deep end, like really young fellas, maybe that it's going to take a bit of time to adapt to senior level. But like they haven't adapted too badly at all. And even after the Limerick defeat, you're thinking not that the wheels will come off, but that the little bit of a shot in the arm confidence wise that they got may have been dented, but they bounced back brilliant the week after against a Cork side that everybody's talking about.
And that was what I was looking out for. Was it, they built themselves up for that Cork or that Limerick display, and okay, Limerick drew away at the end of it. But I think if you want to see how your players match up or react, Limerick is the measurement and have been the measurement. But again, I think they backed up that good performance with that victory. That performance against Cork. So to me, they are on the right path. I think they have a settled enough team. I would imagine that probably 12 or 13 of that team that has played so far will be the final team.
Oh, I think Tommy, I think his league team is essentially his championship team. The worry is the burnout factor potentially. A lot of the guys are young enough, but that is the worry. You're wondering how much more will they improve. But if they keep winning games, you naturally your confidence will improve and grow, which is a positive thing.
Yeah, and again, I think the crowd was back against Cork as well. Cahill has been calling for the supporters to come back, but he has honestly said that we need to give him something to come back to. And I think at the end of last year, probably it was probably disappointing for Tipperary, and they did a lot of soul searching, and I think from what I can see, that they've gone with fairly versatile, adaptable players in the backs, not any defined position, but they've also gone for character and physicality and a bit of bite. That I think when he puts them out, that he knows that these guys will stand up and fight in the battle.
It's gas. There's a comment in here from a Tip fella, and it's true. And I was only thinking about it. Like, it's actually not that long ago. Tip drew at Limerick in Munster 2 years ago. Like, it's not mad to think that. Like, when you compare it, like, I think it was 25 apiece, and they could have easily won it. I know they were the ones that levelled it. Barry Nash got sent off, I think, in injury time, I think, and they could have easily got a result. So it's not like if they're able to get it all together, like they're not a million miles away. It's the vast majority of the same players.
But that's what I'm saying. It's a clean slate now in Munster, right? We're basing probably a lot of opinion based on Leicester's performance, Clare, Limerick, and Cork. Look, to me, there's a line being drawn under that. I don't believe for 1 minute that Waterford or Tip are saying, we'll be who'll be fourth or fifth. They're going out to make sure A, to get to a Munster final, and B, to make that top three. And that is their motto, and that is quite achievable. It's not, it's not out of the question. You get on a run, you get a victory, you get a break, you get a bit of luck, right? And suddenly your season takes off. Tips for whatever reason didn't take off last year. Waterford came to Innis, put Clare to the pin of their collar. The 65, there wasn't a 65, or was it a 65? But, they were that near. And there is that result, I think, would have put Cork out if it was a draw?
A draw would have put Cork out. Like, it's amazing. Cork could have won the All-Ireland. You know what I mean?
That's the fine margins that you're dealing with.
Yeah. There's a good comment in here. It's rare a Clare man gets a compliment from a Limerick man, but here we are. We'll frame it, and we'll get this up on social media so everyone can see it. Crack of the Ash, the anonymous Crack of the Ash, but he is from Limerick, I can confirm. Tommy was the only one with the hazard lights on for Wexford. There's only a pull of a jersey in it when a team hits the floor. He put up a good video last week, Tommy. It was basically moving around from a few different podcasts where Shane McGrath was on the RT podcast saying no one saw Wexford beating Tipperary, and if they did, they're a liar. And then he moved to another podcast where they said basically the same thing, and then he played your audio. I'm actually not sure where the audio was from, but you said we need to be very, very careful this weekend. So nice to get kudos from your neighbours, Tommy. As I said, it's not something that happens too often.
Oh yeah, you know what they say, a pat in the back is a couple of inches from a kick up the arse, so it is. No, like, I mean, I based that on the Galway performance. I just thought, you know, everyone had written off Wexford, and Wexford are a proud county, and they would have, after the Clare getting defeated to Galway, the pressure would have been on Clare. It was at home. All the odds were in Clare's favour. But on the given day, Wexford, no doubt about it, they came, they worked harder, they wanted the game more. And that was after the Wexford game. That's where the concern came in, because it was very unclear-like. But, you know, and that week, as I said, with Shane O'Donnell announcement, and then we were going in to play Limerick. Like, I mean, if we turned up against Limerick, like we turned up against Wexford, we could have got beaten by 20 points. And that was my own view on it. But, you know, maybe that was the spark to ignite Clare's, not that they don't need it. I mean, we don't know what they're doing in training. We don't know the extent of injuries. So we're only guessing what we see on the outside. And that Wexford, I based it on, you know, where we were at against Galway, who we'd have back or who we mightn't have back. But like, one thing you can never underestimate Wexford. When the chips are down, you know, they'll come out fighting, and they did. And on the day, you know, justifiably, you know, winners clear, no complaints.
Tommy, you were actually down on the side of the pitch beside me after the Wexford game, when all extended panel members and injured players, like, or lads come back from injury, the likes of Conor Cleary and that. It was absolutely miserable. It had turned it would turn so bad and dank. It was brutal. And I can just imagine Lohan absolutely spitting fire, like half an hour after the game. And I'd say these boys were getting it in the ear, but I'd say the tone was probably set from that session for the next week. And it was interesting to hear John Conlon even saying, and TG Cattery just said, like, lads weren't tracking runs and this kind of thing. And there was a few home truths. You obviously were in around dressing rooms with Lohan. What was he like in a dressing room?
Like, surprisingly, you know, he didn't say a whole lot. It was more of what he done, rather than what he said, right? And I think, I mean, it was always, you know, Lucknan would have picked the likes of Lohan and those guys, you know, based on, you know, their character, their, you know, mental toughness, you know, the hurling was always going to come, but and I can see that coming through in Lohan, you know, and I think, right, he's measured enough now and experienced enough now to know, right, that, you know, I think their plans and preparations would have been for that Munster Championship. But by the same token, I think he takes great pride in any team he puts out, particularly at home. And I think probably that would have been the most disappointing part, was the performance at home. And, you know, it lacked intensity, it lacked physicality, it lacked energy. And like you said, John Conlon did say there didn't a whole lot have to be said. I think the players realised it themselves. There's an experienced, you know, core group of players there that, you know, would probably call the shots, and they put up their hands and said, look, you know, wasn't good enough. And then, you know, to come out and, you know, put in that performance against Limerick. I don't think it was bad attitude. I don't think it was taking Wexford for granted. It was one of those flat days that, you know, as you said, ended up in a miserable evening with subs who just probably wanted to go home or go for the dinner or go maybe to do something else. Then it was just one of those dank, dreary days, culminating in that result.
Just a quick one, Tommy. Just if we were able to look into the mystic ball a small bit, if Clare were to get a result at the weekend, particularly a win, it would set up an absolutely beautiful showdown with Tipperary in the last game. And like, I'm sure you're hearing the same kind of little things behind the scenes as well. There was a nice little bit of needle over that challenge game that was cancelled in Templemore early in the year. Wouldn't it be lovely if they met each other, and if Tip win, they qualify for a league final? Clare can deny them that. If Tip win also as well, they could potentially relegate Clare. It'd be a lovely little game.
It's in Thurles. It's in Thurles as well. And the only positive thing is that if we do lose, we don't have to cross the old bridge now in Killaloo. There's a new bridge, so there's no traffic lights to hold us up. We can just sail through and go to East Clare without any Tip supporters being at us on the other side of the bridge. So, yeah, I mean, from a Clare point of view, Clare play Cork next Sunday. They played them first in the Munster Championship. They don't play Tipperary, I don't think, until the end, our fourth game in the Championship. So there's enough time there You know, like, I mean, it's not you're playing them the following week or that, but yeah, I do think, you know, that Tip would have been stung by their own performance last year, and maybe they'd like to bring Clare down a notch or two, or put them down into the other division. But I'm not sure is that their motive. I think, you know, they have their own work to get through, and you know, if we're in that position where our status depends on it, it should be a cracker.
Yeah. Just quickly, Tommy, on Munster. And sure, listen, there's no guarantee of anybody getting out of Munster, but I'd imagine a Munster title would mean a hell of a lot to Clare when you look at how long it's back since 1998. Like, it's mad. That, in a way, that only feels like yesterday, but it's 27 years ago. Like, you'd imagine they'd absolutely crave to get their hands on the Munster title.
Yeah, and again, you hear a lot of talk saying, you know, the Tony Kelly and John Conlon and Shane O'Donnell and all of them deserve a medal. You don't, you know, you earn that medal, right? And unfortunately, you know, we've been beaten in Munster finals. We've probably come up short in the last couple against Limerick, despite putting in, you know, heroic performances, but there was no silverware. Probably consolation to the supporters about the performance, but you know, at the end of the day, it's a results-based business, and from the players and management, you know, and I think, you know, look, Nan laid down the gauntlet to them at the medal presentation, I think, where, you know, stated that, you know, they had no Munster Championship won, and it would be, you know, he put it up to them more or less, like, you know, that maybe their careers, you know, could be questioned without winning that Munster Championship. So, look, I'm sure they'll use that as a motivating factor, but you know, the cutthroat nature of it is you go all out, right, and you put, you know, all your eggs into one basket, win the Munster Championship, and come out and be flat in for an All-Ireland series. It's a balancing act, really. You know, I would have been quite happy if Clare came out in third last year, based on the fact that, you know, we had gone to Munster finals, had put in great performances, came home with nothing. We kind of struggled after. We were lacking energy, tired. It kind of worked, you know, in their favour, where, you know, we got beaten by 5 or 6 points. So they took that week off. There was a lot of soul searching, and came back, you know, into that All-Ireland series, all guns blazing. And I suppose, look, at beating Kilkenny in the league final helped. You know, we'd lost 2 All-Ireland semi-finals. You know, but they got over the line against Kilkenny. I always thought that, you know, while, you know, I think that those 2 semi-final losses weighed heavily on them, I think to get over the line then give them the, you know, the momentum and the confidence to go and win that All-Ireland after.
Yeah. Just a left field one here. SSRI says, bring back the long hot summer of 95. If I never saw that Eamon Taft goal again, I'd be a happy man. Jesus, that haunted me. Something I don't know if I've ever really spoken to you about it, Tommy. What was 1995 like for you? You retired at the end of 94. What was it like? How long was your Clare career before that? And what was it like not being a part of 95?
Tough.
Yeah.
It was tough. You know, probably it was something that personally I would have always, you know, given my life to hurling and to win it. You know, and then towards the end, you know, injury came against me. Probably, I'm not sure, even though he was my own clubman, Lucknan decided that I was, you know, surplus to requirements. In January of 95, it was that near. I had, you know, played the Rocktas matches, I think, before Christmas that year, and didn't make the cut. I asked him after, and I still don't know to this day, but it was tough. I would have been on the Clare panel since, you know, I was in secondary school in 1983. You know, lost under 21 finals, lost senior finals. You know, never getting out of Munster and that. If I was to be brutally honest, part of me was sad, but, you know, the overriding was that, you know, that Clare had won, because, you know, I would have played with all those players, you know, but it was tough. You know, it did hit me hard.
Yeah, Tommy, it is very honest, like, because I think anybody that's played, it's like being a sober, an extended panel member even. There is that obviously that bit is you want a bit of want, like you want you're used to playing, you want to be involved. What was the dynamic even with you and Loughnane thereafter? Like I presume he lives very close to you in that as well. Like
Yeah, look at we were teammates at both Fecal and Clare, and look at it soured after. I won't deny that. A lot of people, you know, the fact that he was my clubman and that. Look at Loughnane is Loughnane. You know, he made the decision. He didn't lose any sleep over it. You know, and then our paths would have crossed. We wouldn't have, you know, we'd have just saluted and got on with it. But I think, you know, then when he got sick, you know, I said to myself, you know, life's too short here. I picked up the phone. I rang him in James's hospital in Dublin, and you know, we've been great friends after. You know, look at that sport. You know, yeah, you live and die by your decisions. Who am I to question? You know, I remember the night at the Munster final, a famous character around Clare Castle. I was with Anthony Daly in, I think was it Cheers or The Rocks at the time, was a pub, and the Clare Castle man came up to me and said, "It's a pity you didn't stick your finger into that lawnmower earlier and be done with it, because we'd have probably won the All-Ireland a lot sooner."
did he get one of these?
Ah, I'm not an aggressive man.
Jesus Christ, I don't drink, and you'd be like, you know what I mean?
Well,
like,
look, I think Anthony Daly was a small bit embarrassed, but look at, we left it off. That was the way it was. That was the way it was. And again, look at, if I had to take everything that was said to me or about me, Jesus, I'd be a sad man.
Yeah. I tell you a good one quickly, Tommy. I don't live at home now. I'm up the country now in Meath, but I used to be out selling lotto tickets most Saturday nights, and like nearly every second Saturday night anyway. And you go around the pubs, and as I said, I don't drink, and you go out at 10 o'clock, like, so whoever you're meeting, they're usually fairly well on, particularly if it's one of the latter pubs, like, or whatever. And fella came up to me anyway, and he says, we were after beaten in the championship maybe a week before in the quarter final against Rhinus, and fella comes over to me, close relation to a player, and he just says, "What did you think of that game against Rhinus? Should my lad have been playing?" And we were beaten by a point in the game anyway. And I said, to be honest with you, I said, I think that, to be straight with you, I think the management got it right. That was the best we performed all year. And you know, your man would have been playing in the backs. And I said, the backs did very well, in fairness, conceded no goal or whatever. And I could see he was totally taken aback by what I said. And he just kind of sucked in a bit of breath, and he just said, "Call a spade, pal." He said, "You were cleaned out against Rhinus." That's right.
Oh yeah, the power of drink. The power of drink. Yeah, look at, I never drank. You know, and again, it wasn't, I socialized, but probably if you had a couple of pints, you might forget what was said. But in my case, without the drink, I always had to remember the good times and the bad times. So, you know, look at, I suppose the following day or next week, the same guy, if you won or played well, he'd be all about you. So look at, you have to take the good with the bad.
You surely do, yeah. Tommy, you've been great with your time. I won't keep you much longer. Just fly through a couple of other games at the weekend. Limerick play Galway. Galway obviously are neighbours as well. A disastrous start to the league, but they've kind of chipped away nicely since then. They've unearthed a few players. Gavin Lee at 6. John Fleming is a player I'm mad about in the forwards. He's not a particularly big player, but he's a pig for work. Like, just one of them players you need in the forward line, well able to take a score as well. McLaughlin has impressed at times. Anthony Burns has impressed at times. New names that we wouldn't have heard before. Tom Monaghan has his mojo back. Keenan Fahy's going well in the middle of the park. They're looking at Derek Fahy in the goals, I'd say. What have you thought of Galway so far?
Yeah, and again, look at, I mean, to get off on the start that they got off of, I mean, it was looking like that, you know, there was a big rebuilding job from Micheál Donoghue, but I think, you know, he has, I think, well, he had, someone said, about 55 players on the go. So it was about, you know, okay, he threw him in at the deep end against Tipperary. Tipperary hit the ground running, and Galway just on the day weren't at it. But since then, I think, and again, no more than, you know, we spoke about the Tipperary team being, you know, settled enough, and probably 11, 12 maybe championship team in playing in the league now at the moment. I think, he's going to go for a settled team. He'll add in here and there. As again, I would have seen Burns playing the club championship, and he's one of these, goal getters around the square. He'll always come up with that score. To me, Gavin Lee at centre back, would have seen him, a good lot of him at underage. His father, a Clare man, myself and Johnny played together, both minor, under 21 and senior. Johnny Lee is a doctor in the Galway clinic. I'd always have had an interest there. I suppose the positioning of him at centre back probably, raised a few eyebrows in Galway, but he has acquitted him. A superb hurler, right? That was never in question. It was about the fact that he played no more than Jack O'Neill, played most of his underage in the forwards. Management now, the modern game, you need good ball players. He has that ability to come onto the ball and get 2 or 3 points from centre back. So, and again, I think, playing with the likes of Pádraig Mannion against Clare, I noticed that the Clare centre forward, who was it David Reedy, was going out the field and causing a lot of problems. And I was saying to myself, Gavin is a question to answer now, but I think Galway decided, they told Gavin to go after him, but Pádraig Mannion then, every time he dropped in front of the D. So I think they know what they're about. They're an evolving team. We all know they have the players, but it's just about, getting the right blend again. And as you said, you need some dogs, in the heat of battle. Sir Farrell always said, it's not the best 15, it's the 15 that play best together. For the team is what's crucial. So they will be, I have no doubt, I could see them maybe doing well in the league, if they get to the knockout stages. And then, that Leinster Championship is shaping up. Again, you'll be picking maybe teams based on last year. You've Dublin, you've Offaly, coming into that now, probably unknowns. They'll be written off. They're going to bring down a big team somewhere along the line, and more than the Munster Championship, it'll go from round to round. And if you're still standing and make the top 3 in each province, I think you'll have a good start to the championship.
Yeah, both of them are looking very spicy even at this stage, and they're probably only going to get spicier over the next month or so.
I think from a Galway point of view, again, there's no better place to measure yourself about unless you're playing Limerick. And I think Micheál Donoghue will relish that. They won't be meeting them I think Limerick have 3 non-Munster teams left. I think they have Kilkenny, Wexford and Galway to play in the league. So that won't impact on their preparation for the Munster Championship, i.e. giving away any secrets or different formations. So Limerick have that luxury. I think Galway will use it as a benchmark to see where they're at this, the newer players, if they can stand up in Limerick against Limerick, that'll be a big plus to them. So I think the league, again, Galway, I think it'll be a cracking match. I think Saturday night, I don't think Limerick would have lost too much sleep over losing to Clare. I think you heard John Kiely saying lots to work on, lots of players to come back. But I expect a big game on Saturday night in the Gaelic grounds.
Just a quick a word on Limerick. Like, what of Limerick this year? Like, obviously, O'Donnell's injury is the first big injury probably since Nicky Quaid's injury. At least both teams have time to adapt without a key player. Galan has played 2. Dowling will probably play this weekend. That's kind of an interesting one. Barry Nash was back in last weekend. Hannon was actually named to play against Kilkenny and then didn't tog last weekend and wasn't on the 26th. So you'd wonder maybe whether there was a knock or something in there. A couple of questions. Who do you think will be in goals? Who do you think will play at 6? And will hunger drive Limerick right to the top or very close to the top this year?
Yeah, I think it will. I think they have the panel. Okay, now look at losing Nicky Quaid, losing the players they've lost. I believe Darragh Donovan is struggling badly to get back. I think here he has a long-standing calf injury that's not responding. The Limerick 6, I suppose. Leicester, it looked like that Cathal O'Neill was being groomed for a place in the half-back line, and then things changed and they needed him. They pushed him up front with, I think Keane Lynch was injured or something like that. I suppose the obvious one is Kyle Hayes, the 6. And then you've Colin Coughlin. Now, whether they're going to play Cathal O'Neill in the backs again, Barry Murphy looks comfortable at cornerback. So that's another option there. Barry Nash can play further out. I think Limerick are in a good place because I think, the fringe players over the last couple of years, the Adam English, Fergal O'Connor, Aidan O'Connor in the forwards, O'Dowlig, Shane O'Brien, they won't be going in green. They'll be going in with a lot of minutes under their belt. And no more than Clare or no more than any team that has been at the top. I think if the fringe players or the so-called 15 to 20 don't push the top so-called 15 players, well, then that can lead to complacency. So I think Limerick, Adam English, superb player, and again, Peter Casey has to come back into that. You look at their full forward line, Gillane, O'Dowlig, O'Brien, Flanagan, Peter Casey. Pick three from that. If you picked any three, would you be looking at a weak team? You wouldn't. Cian Lynch looks like he's going to be midfield with William O'Donoghue probably to come back there. Their half forward line, Will Tom Morrissey, he's had a break. It'll take a time. Garrod Hegarty is to come back. Who'll play at 11? Will it be Cathal O'Neill? Or David Reedy? Like, they still have lots of good players.
Right? They're frightening.
And I'll tell you, I won't use this forum to knock Limerick and have, what's his name there?
Crackety Ash
coming back saying that Guilfoyle said that Limerick were gone. Right? I have enough of those here at work from Limerick. But no, look at Limerick. Limerick out there, to me at the moment, if I was to be brutally honest, to win the All-Ireland, I would say Limerick. And that's not bullshitting or blowing them up. I think, the year out, the 5 in a row, that pressure, even though they said it didn't get to them, is gone. It's a new season. They've added new players. Look at...
I think you did quite the opposite, Tommy.
Yeah, but look at, and again like this, look at last year. Limerick beat Clare twice. Cork beat Limerick twice. So look at, that possibility is very much alive again in 2025. And again, who's standing after the Munster Championship? You'll have earned it. So, and again, I do take Limerick. I would have probably thought at the end of last year that they would have been in transition. The fact that, Hannon was relieved of the captaincy, which probably meant that there was a changing of the guard.
My understanding now is that he wasn't relieved and that he actually stepped down as captain, which is kind of a different thing completely. And maybe it frees him up a bit as well,
Yeah. And again, look at you have the, they have the players, and look at, they have the shrewdest management. I think they would, the management themselves probably would have been disappointed with their job on the sideline against Cork last year, where, I think Cork outfoxed them with Dalton and Kyle Hayes standing outside near the advertising hoarding. So I think they'll have reevaluated. I think the key thing at the start of the year for me was I heard Kiely had 3 weeks of trials for players that hadn't featured, right? And out of those 30 or plus players, 14 of them were on an extended panel. So not alone, is he thinking about 2025, he's also thinking about the future, that when they go, if they go, that, that Limerick hurling will be in a better place than when he took it over. So, but I do think, right, they'll be anxious to get back on that horse and, add Munster. I'm not sure where they're at with the league, but I think that come championship time, they'll be real contenders.
Yeah, he's mentioned the future a lot now, and even in interviews, the future. And whereas it was always kind of the here and now. And I also wonder, when you're beaten, I'd be loyal to the end with guys that have gone to the end of the earth for you and won everything for you. But when you're beaten, it just, your focus maybe shifts a small bit to okay, maybe I need to be looking a little bit more.
Well, look at you. You learn more in defeat. Than you do in victory, because when you win, everything is rosy in the garden. I think, also I would read or listen to lots of Kiely's interviews, and at the start of the year, a lot of the interviewees were referencing the disappointment of last year. He didn't even answer it. I think they have dealt with that it's not about righting the wrongs of last year. That's done. It's in the bank. It's over with, right? It's next year. And as you said, it's the future. So if you listen to him, and I do listen to, you can pick up where they're coming from. I think, yeah, they would have been disappointed, right? But it won't define them, and it certainly won't hold them back for 2025.
Yeah, it's sometimes, Tommy, it's not what he says, but what he doesn't say, and the type of question that he doesn't answer, if you get me. I'd agree with you totally there.
Yeah, he's the best in the business for avoiding and having a smile on his face at the same time.
Yeah. Just quickly, Tommy, Kilkenny tip this weekend. What's your not even about the game this weekend. What's your biggest memory, or what's your biggest takeaway from the Kilkenny tip kind of rivalry, or what's your kind of abiding memory of it?
Well, I suppose, I don't know, would you call it hatred, or where the home of hurling was, or where it was along the border there between Tip and Kilkenny. But, it was a fierce rivalry. It always has been down through the years.
Just quickly, Tommy, I'm only after thinking about it now, and I meant to do a piece on it, but I'm stuck in Cheltenham mode this week. David Herity is on the line for Tipperary this weekend against Kilkenny.
I think the Kilkenny people do not like one of their own stepping over the line with any other county. And again, look at, I'm not referencing Sheffield specifically, but they're a tough shower, those supporters and stuff in Kilkenny. Like, I mean, they're great when they're winning, but I think that they would have, and again, it's hard to gauge Kilkenny. I think they changed up with the transition from Cody to Derek Ling. Their style of play was probably unlike Cody's style, right? But I think they needed to change to move with the times. They have now, I think, brought in that style of play and are playing. They have the players, but I just wonder defensively. They haven't settled on six. Whoever six will be, whether it's Blanchfield or Richie Reid or I don't know who it is. They've tried Paddy Deegan all over the place.
I wasn't 100% sure on Mikey Carey at six, and I liked him a good bit more the other night. Now I have to say,
he's a good hurler. He's a great hurler, great ball player. Man, he could get 2 or 3 points for you, but is he going to lock down six and be the defender in front of the D? When in the John Conlon mode, that sort of a six, a deep sitting, Look, I think, again, it'll be a big test for Tipperary. They will see Kilkenny as probably being ahead of those at the moment. And again, they're going to Nolan Park, I think, are they?
This weekend, they are indeed, yeah.
Yeah, so look at probably a big crowd attending, and the Tip crowd getting bigger. Kilkenny always have a big crowd at home, and they take the league very seriously. I just wonder, they have Mullen to come back. They have John Donnelly to come back. TJ made a brief appearance the last day. Midfield, I was very impressed with the midfielder against Clare that day. Was it Pat Moylan, was it?
Pádraig Moylan, was it?
Pádraig Moylan. I thought he did well. And he's now featuring defensively. I think he was full back.
Was it him or was it Canellan?
There was two new midfielders that day, because I think started centre forward, Cian Kenny.
Yeah, he's going very well at left too. Really well, actually.
Cian Kenny is the modern centre forward. That's not going to. The last day against Downey, right? There was no point in him taking him on physically, even though he tried all right for, and paid the price for it. But I mean, he was drifting away from him. He was picking up the ball. He has an eye for scores. Right, he's that modern centre forward that asks questions of the six. Will the six stay, or will he? Jordan Malloy, and it was MacDonald. I thought was impressive that day. Yeah. So look they're still trying to find players. In fairness to Ling, he's tried out a lot of players. But I think once you've Mullen, John Donnelly, who to me was one of the best players last year. TJ to come back into it. With Cody and Cian Kenny probably a centre forward, they have the forwards. The midfield needs to be settled, I think. They've lost a bit of experience where Paddy Deegan plays. Look, Hugh Lawler's one of the top fullbacks. So Mikey Butler, the cornerbacks have changed. So They will be there or thereabouts. They will qualify in Leinster, I would imagine. And, you know, the famine is beginning. The years are beginning to add up for Kilkenny. So, you know, they'll want to write that.
10 years for Kilkenny, 20 years for Cork. Tommy, you have to team me up nicely. Your parting shot. Give me your Munster top 3 and give me your Leinster top 3. Champo. Do you know what, Tommy? Because I love doing this. We do a league forecast competition every weekend in Burr. And, you know, you'd say, oh, I think someone might win this weekend or whatever. But when you have to nail your colours to the mast, it's a different story of what you
Limerick,
think.
Limerick, Cork and Clare before I change my mind.
In that order? Yeah?
Yeah. We'll do the tri-cast now instead of the forecast here, okay? Cheltenham is coming up, right?
Give me your Leinster top 3.
Leinster, I think Kilkenny and Galway. And to be quite honest, I wouldn't be surprised if Dublin, Wexford, Offaly, one of those can get into that third place. I sincerely think that you know there's an opening there for that third team. Whoever you know hits the ground running and whoever is the most consistent. So I'm not dodging it now, but I think Kilkenny and Galway, and then it's one of the rest.
No, the great thing about like both of them now this year is, and it was the same last year. You think anybody can nearly beat anybody on a given day, and so that's the dream scenario.
Yeah, yeah, and that's going to happen. That's going to happen in both provinces where form will go out the window. A team is backed with its backed up against the wall. They'll come out fighting. You know, if they've anything to play for, of any pride in it. And you tell me, Leinster or Munster, that you know that's not that's just a minefield. And as I said, if you're still standing in the top 3 after both provinces, you know you've a shot in at winning the All Ireland.
Good stuff, Tommy. Thanks a million. You've been super with your time. I'll see you at ground somewhere around the country, no doubt. Very soon.
Okay, Mike. Yeah, if you see Shane, tell him I was asking for him. And no hard feelings. What's he doing? Is he still involved in GA?
Sure, he's involved in some respects anyway, in the background. Yeah. He likes to keep quiet in the background, Tommy. You know yourself.
I do, yeah. But at some stage, it'll get the better of him, and he'll put something out there, and it'll come back to haunt him. Let's hope it does, really, because look, it's all about opinions. Whether he's right or wrong, you know, let other people decide.
He can't help himself, Tommy. So it's only a matter of time.
No. Yeah.
Thanks, Tom.
All right, see you again. Good luck.
Bye. Bye. Great stuff there with Tommy. Always a great chat. Just fly through a couple of the other games this weekend. Division 1B, Westmeath against Waterford. Waterford are after putting themselves in the pole position with that last gasp win over Dublin last weekend. In the other 1B game this weekend, you have Dublin and Carlow. Carlow probably not been talked about that much, but they still have a chance of qualifying and getting to the final. They have to win their last 3 games. They'll be favourites in 2 of their last 3 games. One is against Laois, the other is against Westmeath, but a lot will hinge on this game this weekend against Dublin. It's up in Parnell as well. Dublin trying to avoid losing 3 games in a row, which will be a bit of a disaster. They were in good shape against Waterford and in good shape against Offaly, and discipline has definitely been an issue. They've had a player sent off at a crucial enough time in both in the last 3 games, I should say, yeah. And the 2 sending offs against Offaly and against Waterford definitely turned the game somewhat too. Antrim are playing Laois this weekend too. There's a gastric bug, I think, going around the Antrim camp. It has been leaked to the media. I believe some people questioned the veracity of the bug, and I think Davy Fitzgerald has come out today refuting that and saying that it is genuine. So yeah, how that leaked to the media is another story. But the game will be going ahead, and Antrim will be welcoming Laois to Corrigan Park, and or to Ballycastle, I believe it is, and I would expect them to have most of their top players in tow. Just see a question coming in here from Homer Hurling. Any tips for Cheltenham? Yeah, my tip of the week will be Nürburgring on the Thursday in the novices handicap chase. Very, very good horse, 4th in the Triumph Hurdle at Cheltenham last year, and looks well handicapped going into that. And just fly through a couple of other quick games this weekend. Kerry play Down in Division 2. Down look almost assured of a final place. Other games on the Saturday then in Division 2. Derry against Meath and Kildare against Tyrone. Kildare, after getting themselves back in really good shape, did a good win last weekend against Donegal. In Division 3, Armagh against Mayo, and that's on the Sunday. And then the other Division 3 games are Roscommon and Cavan on the Saturday, and London against Sligo. London, managed by former clubmate of my own, Neil Rogers. They're flying it. They're unbeaten so far, and you'd be expecting them to get a result that weekend and book their place in the league final, Division 3 league final. But lots of interesting stories outside of the top tiers. In Division 4, I should say as well, Monaghan and Lancashire on Saturday, along with Fermanagh and Leitrim, and Louth and Longford. Louth are unbeaten so far, so they're kind of top of the pops there in Division 4. No football, not much football this weekend of note, just a couple of refix games, but lots of drama to look back on last weekend, and delighted to have Adam Minot with us again. Adam, you talked the first week and then the second week and then the third week about the ups and downs of Kerry football. And unfortunately, it was a bit of a down at the weekend. Looked like the schedule kind of took its toll a small, which is a really, really flat first half.
Yeah, I mean, like five games in 5 weeks isn't ideal. I think Jack O'Connor wheeled it out as a bit of an explanation for their performance, especially in the first half. They were down 7 points at half time, and only for Brian Begley's goal, they could have been done a lot more. So they left themselves an awful lot to do in the second half. I think they'll be very disappointed because coming on the back of the Tyrone game, it was definitely a game that they were targeting, and they were saying, right, if we can win this, it's 6 points on the board and you can kind of relax a small, but then 6 points won't get you relegated more often than not. So yeah, it was disappointing. But if in fairness, credit to Mayo, like Mayo started the league quite slowly. I saw them play a couple of times, like that Tyrone game in particular. I know we spoke about it before, but I didn't think they were very good. And I was kind of maybe a bit too confident of Kerry going up to Mayo the other day. I thought they'd get a result. But in fairness, Mayo are getting stronger and stronger. There was a massive atmosphere up there. Like the way the game was won at the end, there was lots of turnovers and lots of excitement. So it was great from their point of view. But like, yeah, Kerry, like looking at the table, they're on 4 points now with 2 games to go. They were very lucky that Tyrone and Derry didn't win both their games the other day, because they were both in good positions. Like Derry were well up, Tyrone were in a strong position. Tyrone ended up drawing with Galway, and Derry lost to Donegal. If those results had gone a different way, like Kerry could be looking at it like they could have been in very big trouble. As it is, they still need to win a game. Like they've got Armagh at home on Saturday week, and Galway away in the last game. So those are 2 tough games, like, and they have to get at least 1 win. So yeah, there's a bit of pressure on them. My concern is that we said at the start of the year when talking about Kerry that there's a balancing act about, okay, would it be the end of the world if they get relegated if they found 4 or 5 players that they could bed into the team? I don't know if they've found 4 or 5 players. In fact, I don't think they have, and yet they're still kind of on the chopping block. So if they went down and didn't find the 4 or 5 players, it'd be a real disappointment and a bit of a failure. They have found a couple. I think Damien Burke's done well at cornerback, and Mike Breen's done well at centre back, although he's not really a new player as such. But yeah, they're under pressure. Definitely that game against Armagh is going to be a tough one, a really tough one. With Donoghue and the boys coming down to Tralee, they'll definitely need to get 2 points there.
Just from a Mayo point of view, like you're saying, Kerry is a roller coaster. Mayo is always a roller coaster. We were questioning maybe even attendances, quality. Like they did, like they were actually, when they play like they played at times on Saturday, they're a joy to watch. They did a full court press on Kerry at different times. Were real aggressive, real abrasive. They're best when they're on the edge. When they're on that edge, they're kind of hard match when they're on that edge. They're really enjoyable to watch when they're playing with that kind of bit of devilment almost.
Yeah, that is Mayo at their best. Like, you hit the nail on the head. They're a rock and roll kind of team. Like it's all or nothing. Like, it doesn't suit them to sit back and kind of play slow football. They can kind of catch teams when they go all out. And we might talk about the rules in a bit, but not being able to go back to the goalkeeper is really playing into the hands of teams that want to press aggressively. And Mayo did it brilliantly against Kerry. Like, they were pushing up, and that option there to go back to the goalkeeper is no longer there. It was a cop-out a lot of times for defenders, that they didn't have to really focus on their ball skills or breaking out past the press. They didn't have to look up. They could just go back to the keeper and kind of reset and take the sting out of it. But definitely, like Mayo, the last couple of passages of play, Kerry couldn't get out. And look, Kerry backs would fancy themselves as being handy on the ball, but it's really, really difficult now when teams press aggressively. And look, I suppose in times past, in that situation, if Mayo were up a point, maybe they would have sat back, because that's what every team would do, get 15 behind the ball and say, right, we'll give you the ball 20 yards out from your own.
Subs didn't they? Or they didn't sit back. I think McSay even talked about it after in that Super 16 game. Was it last year? I think it was last year, yeah.
Yeah, so like this year with that option kind of taken away from teams to go short from the kick out, they have to go long, and then when they go long, you can obviously set up higher up the pitch when you're defensive. So yeah, look, it definitely suited them the last day at the press high. It'd be great to see Mayo doing that throughout the year and make themselves a real contender, because they weren't really a contender last year. I don't think starting off this year many people had them in that kind of bracket of 4 or 5 teams that are real contenders. If they can continue on the way they're going, they've got 5 points in their last 2 games from a few tough fixtures as well. So, and their last 3 games, sorry. So yeah, look, it's looking positive for them at the moment.
Kerry obviously struggled with the 5 weeks in a row. Donegal struggled to a point, but still managed to get a brilliant result against Derry. I was up in Ballyshannon, venue I'd never been to before. It is lovely venue, and there's a real, just even chatting people on the way in, there's such a home around Donegal and so much optimism. There was about 7,000 there. They were 119-15 down with an hour gone, and they had a bit of a breeze. Murphy had come on and he'd set up a load of chances. They hadn't converted. Jamie Brennan missed 2 real good goal chances. But all of a sudden, they kicked a couple of 2-pointers. Shane O'Donnell got his goal. And like, is there any better scenario for a team to not play well for an hour and come away still winning the game? Now, whether they wanted to win the game or not, in the general things, is a different debate altogether. But like, I don't know. I do think a lot of things are really aligning for them, particularly with Murphy's return even as well. Like, you just take how good they were last year, and how it was like a rising tide lifted all boats last year. And then you have one of the best players of all time and probably the greatest player in their history rejoining the fold. And all of a sudden you're winning games that you shouldn't be probably winning. I just think there's a real kind of a wave of optimism coursing through Donegal veins.
Yeah, look, the way Murphy set up the goal for Shane O'Donnell, it wasn't much, but it was just, he's that focal point, quick hands. You know better than I would from being there, but like, he obviously did make that difference for them. Like, he obviously gave them that kind of focal point inside the full forward line. So yeah, it is aligning for them. Interesting to see McGuinness again talk about the league and whether or not teams are going to go for the final. I think it's pretty obvious what's going to happen in the next couple of games. Like, they don't want to be there, and
they could still fall into a final though, couldn't they? Like, you know what I mean? You can't.
Yeah.
If they keep putting the ball over the bar and the ball in the back of the net, even though I believe that was their first goal to score. Am I going back to? I think it was like since the All-Ireland quarter final last year. I think it was the first goal they've got, or something crazy, some crazy stat like that. I think in normal time it was their first goal they scored. But like, yeah, he kind of said we'll do what's best for our players. It's definitely not best for them to get to a league final, and I just cannot get my head around. Like, there's no competition in the world where you should be punished for performing well, and they will be. And the same if it was Derry. If the two of them have performed well, to be both playing the league final and end up playing each other a week later, there's something a bit off there. It doesn't affect every team. Like, it wouldn't affect Kerry, it wouldn't affect Dublin, or it wouldn't affect probably the vast majority, but it does affect Donegal. And yeah, you'd be very interested to see what we will be looking at over the next 2 games, because they won't want to lose to either of them either, because they don't particularly like Mayo or Tyrone, but like, needs kind of must in a way as well.
Yeah, like we spoke about it last week a little bit, but looking at the table, they're on 8 points. Like, there's 2 games to go. Dublin are 2 points back. Armagh are 3 points back, along with Mayo. Like, they might not be caught. Like, you know, that's the reality of it. Like, if they might not be caught, so it is ridiculous. Like, you hit the nail on the head for teams to be going through a competition thinking like, we have to hold back here because we might win it. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, so they should just scrap it. Like, I don't understand. Like, this has been happening for a couple of years. Like, it is in part due to the condensed nature of the season that they can't give the championship breathing space in Ulster where there's more teams. But geez, like, you can't have a situation now where heading into the final 2 games, I mean, basically everyone wants to finish between 3rd and 6th.
Yeah.
Like, you can't have that in the competition. Like, it just makes the whole, and you know what? It's fine for Donegal to say, we don't want to get to the final, so we're going to pull some of our players now for the next 2 games. That'll have a knock-on effect, because there's teams trying to stay up at the other end, and maybe some teams play Donegal at full strength, and now next thing there's other relegation candidates playing Donegal at half strength, and they might get the 2 points, and it just flips everything. So it brings the whole thing into kind of a bit of a disrepute, really.
Yeah, Adam, rules. What are you thinking? Robbie Brennan's kind of rant was I thought was really, he's coming from a really powerful place, because when you've won 4 out of 5, it's not you're like the people love, like on Twitter or whatever, you're only sour because you've lost 4 of your games or whatever. That's why I think his words come across as stronger, because of they've been one of the best teams in the country to look at with the new rules. What do you think? Like, what are you hearing? Like, are you hearing generally optimism? I'm hearing optimism. I look forward to going to games a hell of a lot more than before. I think some of the county managers are in the minority. What's kind of your reading on it?
100%. Like, everyone I speak to, everyone has little kind of quibbles about the rules and things that maybe needs to be tweaked. But like, broadly speaking, people are very happy with how things are going. Like, the games are more entertaining. Like, I couldn't believe, like, I think you're dead right about Robbie Brennan saying that when he's after winning a game in the manner that they won it. And interestingly as well, Kieran McGeeney was quite vociferous about the rules as well. And after Armagh won, it's no coincidence, like, fellas don't want to be complaining after they lose a game because it sounds like sour grapes. But like, I have Brennan's quote here. Like, he said something like, they've lost a run of what we're trying to do. You check a score at half time of a game and it's 17-0 to somebody. It's a joke, to be honest with you, the way it's gone. It's a mix of outdoor basketball, soccer, and rugby. I don't like it. It's not Gaelic football. Like, I'd be interested to know what he thinks Gaelic football is, because what are we watching the last 7 or 8 years? There's a reason the rules came in, is because what we were watching was putrid. Like, it was terrible to watch. If he thinks that's Gaelic football and what we're seeing now isn't, like, that's very strange to me, because we're seeing more contests around the middle of the field, more high fielding, we're seeing more shooting, we're seeing more scores, long kicking, fast attacks, less kind of swarm defenses. Like, these are all things that we're crying out for. So I think what we're saying, or what we're seeing, is that managers are losing an element of control over games. You know what I mean? Like, they're kind of saying, like, okay, we don't like this kind of random element to the game that we can't control, that if we can't go short with our kickouts, we have to go long. Sure, anything could happen. And next thing, you know, maybe down the line, no, Robbie Brennan and Meath are going well at the moment. Maybe he's thinking about the Leinster Championship, like when they're playing against Dublin, and maybe the rules might suit Dublin more than they suit them. That might come into his head. But like, I 100% take it that there are certain things that need to be changed. I think some things will be changed in the coming weeks, judging by what Jim Gavin's saying. But to say that, like, we're not seeing Gaelic football, I think what we've seen in recent weeks is more like Gaelic football than anything we've seen in the last 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, and I was chatting to Dick Clerkin earlier in the week, and he just said the rules have passed the terrace test, and they have.
Yeah.
Are happy going to games, and they're far more entertained. Yes, they're a bit confused by a 3-up violation, or, you know, a keeper taking more than 20 seconds to take a kick out, which I think that kind of thing has to be scrapped, and you just have to play it by ear. You know in a game when someone has taken longer than they should have had, and they've gone over 40 seconds or something like that. You can feel it, and even the terrace starts kind of building up, and there's jeers or whatever. You know that. But I think it's really little small things that we're picking at now, not really big things. Maybe the keeper as well, and maybe the black card or red card, and getting away without having to keep 3 up in that scenario. But generally, the picture is a lot more pleasing than it would have been. Like, people were checking out. Like, I was actually chatting one of your own colleagues down in Kerry. Was chatting Ambrose O'Donovan there a couple of weeks ago, and he just said, like, I was nearly thinking about not going to games anymore. Like, it's just like I think the tipping point was that Kerry Derry game last year it was the All-Ireland court. Oh, holy God. That was, you know, poison for the eyes. Like, that was hard watch, and anything is better than that. And everything is it's focused on a lot more on attacking at the minute. That will probably come back a small bit when teams get used to it, and when defenders are probably coached maybe to defend more one-on-one. But I do think it's what are the main things you see changing through the FRC? And, you know, I think the manager's problem as well is that things are changing week to week, and things have been pushed on them, and this 20-second thing that they don't know about. And do you know what I mean? It's just maybe a bit of an information vacuum as well, which has been a bit of an issue.
Yeah, I definitely take McGeeney's point about the 20 seconds and the kick out. Like, it is, if they're going to do it, they have to do it properly. Like, it can't just be the ref trying to guess, because it seems like that's what's happening, because there was an incident with Cumberford that was like 15 seconds and it was called for 20. Like, fair enough if you bring it in, but you have to be precise about it. If you bring in a precise rule, it has to be measured precisely. So I take his point on that, and it is a bit messy. I agree. I think the referee can make his own mind up on those, like, without trying to time it. When a keeper is kind of taking the mick about it, like if he's overdoing it. But in terms of what's going to change, I'd be shocked if the 12v11 isn't on the chopping block. Like, I know that's not a rule, but I think they're going to have to put more limits on the goalkeeper. I think time is just, it's gone on too long now that we're seeing keepers coming up and create overloads, not even overloads. They're I suppose allowing teams to hold possession in advanced areas, and it's just boring to watch. So I hope that it's just literally, all right, lads, you've had your fun. You can't get the ball back anymore. I saw people talk about maybe bringing an attacking player back in to track the goalkeeper if the goalkeeper goes up. I don't know if that would work. Like, I think in an ideal world, okay, fine, the forward goes back and tracks the goalkeeper, and it's 1-to-1. But what's going to happen is that the forward will come back, but he's going to drop in like with the rest of his defenders and leave the goalkeeper outside him. What happens then if the goalkeeper takes a few steps backwards and steps back out over the halfway line? This fella then isn't, and he might not notice, and he might play on, and it just gets messy. Then you can kind of see people manipulating it. I don't think that's the right way to go about it. I think what they were trying to do at the start of the year was maybe a compromise, that they knew the keeper was a problem, creating an extra player, and they were like, okay, maybe it's a bit harsh on them if we just completely take them out of play and don't allow back passes to them at all. Let's allow passes if they cross into the top half of the field. But I think now time has come to kind of really put a stamp on it and say, this isn't good for this isn't for the benefit of the overall game. It might be nice for the keepers themselves to get involved. And of course, some of them are good footballers and we like seeing them in advanced positions at times. But I think their goal is to make football as attractive as possible. And I think that's number one on the chopping block as far as I'm concerned.
Two gas things that I noticed. Well, not gas. One of them was funny. The other was just kind of interesting. Up in Ballyshannon the other day, Murphy was literally standing on his own 65, or not his own 65, the opposition 65, the attacking 65, and shouting and bawling and directing. It was kind of cool to see it, like, because he knows the rules obviously inside out. And it was nearly like having the old school, real clever kind of codger sweeper dictating everything in soccer or something like that. It was really interesting to see. The other one was Hugh McFadden went down. The other side of the middle of the field at one stage, and he pulled himself over the middle of the line and went to the other side and was like this, pulling the lad back while he was banjacks. And it was just really kind of cool to see it. Like, here's a lad that's obviously physically spent, but his brain is obviously still working pretty well. Have you seen anything kind of, what's the strangest or most interesting thing? Or have you heard anything cool from the terrace or anything like that throughout any of the games that's maybe you wouldn't have heard under the previous rules?
No, like, I think that's the one thing that fans are really looking out for. I find that really funny. In the terrace, there's always eagle-eyed fellas who are just looking at the halfway line. They're just waiting for a fella to cross it, and they love spotting it. So it's funny to hear them shout it. I don't know, like, I might have mentioned this before, but I think it's funny how when players cross over, fans are keen to shout straight away. I'd be saying leave him go. If you leave him sprint back into his own half and then call it. I know it's hard as a supporter to think that far ahead, but like, some guys just forget, and you're nearly alerting him then. If you're shouting at him, you're telling the fella that he's after making a mistake and he goes back in. So I think definitely, like you mentioned Murphy there, it's going to suit smart fellas and like smart teams that are going to get a handle on it quicker, and definitely over the course of the year. I think once the rules are nailed down, I'd say after these changes now, after round 5, we can pretty much take for read that we're going to see them for the rest of the year, like, and especially the main ones. So teams are really going to hone in on it. We're going to see very smart players and very smart managers and smart coaches coming to the fore, looking at ways of innovating. And so that's what you want to see. You want to see smart players and smart teams being rewarded.
Yeah, just a question in here from PWell74. He just says, what happens in a junior game if a large keeper has to get up off the ground and get a ball 30 yards behind the goals and get the ball kicked out in 30 seconds? PWell, you're thinking very practically, in fairness. yeah, like it's not, you know when a lad is wasting time and when he's not. Do you know what I mean? And I think that needs to be. I know that's a bit. The accountability on that is a little bit like it's a little bit airy fairy, but you can see with your own eyes whether a lad is taking the proverbial or not. Like I've seen, I've been at a couple of club football games, but I've definitely heard anecdotally that the referees are like, listen, lads, I cannot see the tree up the whole time. There's too many things going on. There has to be a degree of honesty almost as well. And as you say there, you might think you're kind of stealing a march or 10 or 15 yards or whatever. But if you are caught, the punishment is massive. Like, do you know what I mean? I'd say you're probably right. I'd say every club will have at least one spotter, and they'll let a lad drift back. And when he's too far away to back over the line, there'll be maybe even some sort of a ball or a roar. You know that you have it as well in your own club. The loudest man in the club that everybody can hear, and he'll be on duty, and he'll be like, "Yeah, I got us 4 points in that game today," or something. That kind of type of thing.
Yeah, 100%. Look, I think there's a lot of talk as well about the punishments being very harsh. You know, like the 3 up, like it's a guaranteed point, like, you know, basically, and as well for the dissent and things like that. But that's the point. Like the point is that they're making it as strict as possible, as punitive as possible. So eventually teams won't do it. Like that's the whole thing. That it'll be a case of like, well, I might gain an advantage here, but if I get caught, we cost our team a point. So I think yeah, look, people need to realize that it's not all going to be perfect. It's not all going to fall into place straight away. But overall, like the aim of the FRC is a positive one, and I think it's been there's stuff that I don't like, and it's very small stuff. But overall, I don't see how anyone could be negative about it, and I'm a bit kind of annoyed, to be honest, the way some of the managers are attacking it. Like, I think it's a bit selfish. Like, they're not. Look, they have to look out for themselves. They're trying to get results, but it's not about them. Like, you know, it's not their game. They're part of it. They're an important part of the intercounty game. But overall, like, I think the majority of the rules have been a success.
It's a control thing, though, isn't it? Like intercounty management is a hell of a lot about control, and they feel like there's a lack of control. And like, when we wouldn't have had it in games before, where you could be 12, 13 points up, and all of a sudden it swings 20 minutes later, because you were able to control and you're able to pull so many bodies behind the ball and just basically shut up shop, park the bus essentially. And I think that's probably what they're struggling with. Whereas I honestly do think, and like Robbie Brennan's management, like, he's got a brilliant coaching team in there. He's Martin Corey in there, who helped Monaghan get to a semi-final. He's Joe McMahon in there as well. Like, they're obviously thriving under the coaching system. And I know Davy Burke has said the same. He's got Mark Dorn in with him, and they're loving coming to training. I just think it's the little small things that are just annoying them, and maybe the lack of certainty around some rules and not having the proper rule book and things changing and being unsure of things, because everybody looks to the manager for clarity. And if the manager is unsure, then you probably have a bit of a problem. Like, by all accounts, I heard anecdotally that Robbie Brennan and Ray Galligan were kind of at each other most of the game that they played in the league, but it was more like even confusion around the rules, and no, this is what it's supposed to be, or that's what it's supposed to be. So that's probably a big part of it as well. And just touch quickly, Adam, on Division 2. We talked about it all along. It is kind of where it's at. We've got 3 teams up the top of Division 2 now on 8 points. It's the week after next. I think it's the Meath. Is it the Meath Monaghan game? I think is going to be the big game that's probably going to decide which one of those ends up in that top spot. Roscommon were very good last weekend against Cork, having, you know, been beaten probably well enough by Meath before. But it's a really, really interesting division, isn't it? Like, it's real high scoring. I said there's loads of jeopardy down the bottom. I do feel sorry for Westmeath. Westmeath have put up some brilliant performances, and I know Dermot McCabe was very upset about the goal after the Hooter the other day. Like, that sort of stuff is what that is literally it, isn't it? That is what's driving a county manager ballistic, that type of thing.
Yeah, I think the Hooter one was funny because, like, no, I haven't seen footage of it. I don't know if there's, like, the Sunday game didn't have it or anything like that, which is disappointing because it's another conversation, I suppose. But you would like to see, especially when there's big incidents like this, that it would be huge talking points and probably need to be discussed. And you'd like to see the actual incident itself. But by all accounts, the Hooter went off. No, Westmeath were at home. The Hooter went off, but they haven't got the best of Hooters up there, and it wasn't heard. play went on for a few seconds. This is genuinely what people are saying. And Mead got the goal.
I can definitely see that being clipped out anyway when you say somebody that they don't have the best of Hooters up there. I got done a couple of weeks ago, but you done it yourself.
Oh, Jesus. No, but I think that's what happened. Like, it was the Duke got the goal for Mead, and it was like supposedly after. It's funny that I was at the Interpros game up in Croke Park last year, just as a supporter, and it was the first game with the Hooters, and there was a fella sitting next to me. It was a Friday evening. I'd say it was after a couple of points, and he was kind of. There was two games, and it was coming towards the end of the second game. Maybe it was the end of the third quarter or half time in the second game, and he was getting a bit kind of, I could see he was getting a bit tired, like, and next thing anyway, he drifted off. He was basically asleep, like, and next thing the Hooter went off, and he fell off his chair, like, he jumped up, like, I'd say he thought the Germans were coming or something. He got an awful fright, but the Hooters definitely loud enough in Croke Park anyway, I'll tell you that much. But Westmeath, like, and you know what the thing is, they're on 0 points. Like, they're really looking like they're in trouble now. They're going to go down. That faulty Hooter could have been the problem. But all jokes aside, like, that is something they'll have to tidy up, because I've noticed even watching games, the time on the TV screen isn't matching up with obviously the Hooter. Maybe the clock and the scoreboard on the scoreboard isn't matching up with the Hooter, or maybe the Hooter's coming a few seconds later. Maybe we're going to have to go down the road of rugby that we play on until the ball is dead, rather than trying to go by the Hooter. Maybe that's a better way of doing it. But yeah, definitely, it's something that needs to be tidied up.
There's also the element of potential skullduggery on a home ground, like that you could.
Yeah.
Who could go just say Mead are on the attack, and you can see what's going to happen usually 10-15 seconds later. You know that they're going for a goal or whatever, and all of a sudden the Hooter goes off, and the referee, I don't know if he's going to call full time because he knows what the time is, but it'd be interesting. Depends what sort of a character you leave in charge of that. No, actually, sure, it should be. Sorry.
Yeah, I think they had to hire extra officials to man the Hooters. Yeah, but yeah, but like, in fairness though, like it is tricky because it needs to be timed perfectly. Like, because if you're in attack and the Hooter goes off, you might just say, "Oh, sure, look,
yeah,
we'll give up here," or you might switch off from a defensive point of view, and the ref might be like, "Hang on a second, like it needs to be exact." Like, so I can see why, that was a big talking point after the Westmeath and Meath game. And like, there's things like that with the timing. Like I said, if you're going to bring in something like that depends on things being exact, then make it exact. It has to be right. Like, so that's something that they're going to have to work on and get right, because it's going to cost teams big time down the line.
100%. Great chat as always, Adam. Just so everybody knows, obviously we're sponsored by Lotto Land. Lotto Land have a sports book where they do betting on all the GA games. So go to Lottoland / sportsbook, and you get all the odds of all the weekend games and the All Ireland competitions and all the provincial competitions as well. Adam, we'll see you again next week. Not much football to digest next week, but plenty to look forward to. So we're actually, I should say before we go, we're because of Cheltenham, we're at the earlier date and time of, we're going to be kicking off at 9:45 next Monday morning. So we'll see you all then, and we'll have fresh analysis of all the hurling games next weekend. Thanks a million for joining us again, folks, and we'll see you on Monday, 9:45.